audience. Here is my audience. Everybody knows somebody who struggles with addiction. Everybody has a story on how that addiction started. Mine started with a phone call in the middle of the night from the hospital telling me my daughter was in a car accident. She had swerved to miss an animal and ran head on to a telephone pole. She then had shattered her hip. She was transferred to UC and then surgery. And then a few days later, she was released with a prescription for 120 Percocet. Beknown to me, she also had 2 more refills for 120. So in a month, she had consumed around 360 Percocet and was addicted to opiates. Things got worse. She started getting worse as the years went by, started lying, started stealing, started to get into some criminal behavior. She went into a dorm. And I wanted to show you, this is a picture of my daughter too. She had gone into a dorm and stole a camera and was to sell it to get money for pills. She was caught, she was convicted, and she was sent to a state prison for 2 years. When she was sent to prison, I thought it was a good thing, because before I didn't know if she was alive half the time. I didn't know if she was eating. I didn't know where she was. So as a mother, it's hard for me to stand up here and tell you that I have a daughter that's an addict and that she's gone to prison. But I thought this was a good thing. I got sleep, and most of all, I thought she was going to get help. But I soon found out that was wrong. Addiction in prisons are an untreated problem, and it's growing. They find themselves in criminal behaviors that lead to arrest, and without treatment, they get caught up in a cycle of addiction, crime, and then incarceration. Issue 1 was put on the ballot in 2018 in Ohio. It was also called the Neighborhood Safety Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Amendment. And what Issue 1 wanted to do was to reduce Ohio's overcrowded prisons, and then by offering treatment and rehab for addicts instead, and then reinvest the money into the communities. And it had 4 key changes. It would reclassify certain 4th and 5th degree drug possessions from felonies to misdemeanors. It would reduce probation violations, such as missing a meeting with a probation officer. It would reward rehab by allowing individuals to earn credits while they're in prison to reduce their sentence by 25%, and then reinvest all the money by fewer prisoners into the drug treatment and recovery programs. Ohio prisons right now, according to the Ohio Secretary of State, are at 132%. And according to the ACLU, incarceration in Ohio has tripled since 1980. Only 13 states incarcerate a higher share of residents than Ohio. Issue 1 to reduce incarceration by 10,000 people, and only 2 states have people in prison because of probation violations. 2 more states are higher than Ohio. And Ohio spends $1.3 billion a year to keep nearly 50,000 people in prison. The Dayton Daily News reports that Dennis Baker, he was a former correction officer for 28 years, and he now works at a rehab treatment center as a treatment officer. And he says, we cannot arrest our way out of this. If only 10% of the prisoners would get help, it would save $1.8 million. And the saved money would then be put back into the rehabs and treatment. This is sort of called a revolving door. What happens is the most addicts, when they get out of prison without any treatment, without any rehab, they go right back into the habitual drug use. They reoffend and they return to prison. And breaking this revolving door is hard. They need time, they need resources. And there's 20 million people who could possibly benefit from drug addiction and counseling or rehab that do not get it in the United States. There are 5 states that passed a similar issue as issue 1: California, Connecticut, Alaska, Utah, and Oklahoma. Since Oklahoma passed theirs in July 2017, felony filings fell nearly 29%. Misdemeanor filings, of course, rose by 14%. The probation violations reclassified as a misdemeanor fell since July 2017, and Oklahoma's overall crime rate dropped. Cincinnati Enquirer also reported that when issue 1 was made, it was made by the Ohio people. There was 730 signatures to get issue 1 on the ballot, and it was the second highest in Ohio history. In November 2018, issue 1 did get defeated. It lost 2-1. And whether it's issue 1 or it's going to be a similar issue, the system is broken. The Facts on Drugs and Crime in America report that approximately 95% of incarcerated addicts will return to substance abuse after their release of prison. And this is because they have no treatment or no rehab. I'm not standing up here telling you that every drug addict, every drug dealer should go without going to prison. Just something is going to get done. This is getting worse. It's an epidemic. So something needs to get. My daughter is still in the revolving door. She's been in and out of prison several times and still cannot get herself well. She is right now in a women's house. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's profited by churches and community people, individuals, but there's not enough of those around, not enough around in the country, not enough around in the state. So going to a drug rehab is an alternative to jail or prison, because each offender and each crime is unique, and a prison or a jail may not be the most effective way to handle this. And I want to leave you with this, and this is by Nelson Mandela. It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. Should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but by its lowest. How many minutes? 7 minutes. There's my